Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to France for the first time in quite a long while actually. I think it's been well over a year since I last reviewed some French beers for you on the channel, and French beer is just notoriously difficult to get a hold of outside of France, and I wish that wasn't the case because my experiences with French beer in the last years has been very positive actually. But for this review we are going to have a look at a beer that I just kind of randomly found in Kiosk over in Copenhagen, and this is one of the first exported French craft beers that I've ever come across, so quite exciting actually. And this brewery apparently do carry quite a reputation, so fingers crossed this is a good one, and it's nice to have some French beers for you here on the channel again because we don't get too many of them. But yeah, for this review then we are going to go to a little place called Vaumont, which is right in the middle of the countryside to the southeast of Paris, and we're having a taste of my first beer from Brasserie Popihn today. So this one is called the Citra Cryo Double IPA. It comes in at 8% ABV, and I think you already know what style this beer is. So yeah, as I said, this is one of the first French beers I've come across outside of France. Or one of the first French craft beers, I should say, that I've come across outside of France. I've had various experiences with French beers in the past. My first ones came from La Cave Brûlée in Paris, which was an awesome beer shop. I read recently that that had shut down, which I was really sad about. I would have loved to have filmed an out and about video for you there, because that place for me was like a treasure trove, seeing all these little French breweries that I just never heard of. That's one of my favourite experiences that I've had in this whole kind of craft beer thing that I've done over the last years. I'm really sad I won't get to film that video for you, but my friend who was in Paris, he bought me the last two French beers that I reviewed for you, also came from that shop. So yeah, a bit sad that I won't get to film that video, but I do have a special beer that was brewed by a French brewery and La Cave Brûlée. You will see that reviewed at some point in the future actually. Hopefully that one has matured quite nicely. But yeah, as I say, nice to have another French beer for you here on the channel. Hopefully this one turns out to be very nice, and I do hope that we see more from this brewery and other French breweries up here in Scandinavia. So let's go for it guys. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Brasserie Popihn. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I said to you. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the French beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. You will hopefully see some more beers added to that list in the near future, thanks to my friend Gautier. Stay tuned on that one. But yeah, as always, please do let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And I do apologise in advance in this video for any bad French pronunciations. It's been a long time since I did French at school, and I've pretty much forgotten everything about the pronunciation of the language. But anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Brasserie Popihn. So Brasserie Popihn, as I mentioned to you already, are based in a little place called Vaumont to the southeast of Paris, very close to Troyes and Auxerre. And this region apparently is known as the Bourgogne-Franche-Comté region, but I've also seen it referred to in some newspapers as Lyon, or the Yon, basically, I guess, if you translate it into English. But there are apparently a number of microbreweries kind of operating in this area. It seems to be quite an agricultural region, like a lot of countryside and things, so I think it's a lot of very small kind of farmhouse type breweries that are operating down there. Do let me know in the comment section below if you are watching from that area. But Brasserie Popihn, sorry, was founded by Aroma Popihn back in 2015, and it's based on an old barn that underwent extensive renovations, and it's based on Arnaud's parents' farm. And a number of the ingredients that they use in the beers apparently are grown here, which is pretty cool. So they began full tilt production in 2017 after a 2-year period where they were renovating this barn, and they quickly made a name for themselves in Paris due to Arnaud's connections in the beer scene there, and obviously the quality of their beer. But over 2018 they brewed around 100,000 litres of beer, and they began to export their beer to different countries. They were exporting to Belgium, the Netherlands, I think Italy and Germany as well, if I remember correctly. And then over the next past years they have expanded that export network a bit further to other countries, and they've continued to expand their brewing capacity as well, from what I understand. As of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 105 different kind of beers according to Untappd, which is a pretty impressive number when you consider that these guys only really started their production about 3 years ago. I think that is pretty damn impressive actually. So yeah, that was all the information I could really find on Brasserie Popihn for you. I do hope that I can get a little bit more for the next video, and I do hope that there will be another review on the channel from Brasserie Popihn. I think it's very rare that we'll come across beers like this, but apparently these guys are doing some very interesting stuff, and they have been recognised internationally as well. So maybe these guys are going to be the kind of first of the French breweries to really break out of France, because we really, as I say, I reviewed maybe 10 or 15 French beers about 6 years ago, and in that period of time I've never seen very much come out of France at all actually, in terms of beers. You have got some of the bigger breweries coming out, of course, but yeah, really not very much in terms of the American style craft beers makes it outside of France. And it's one of these kind of catch-22s. Yeah, it would be very cool to go to France and try all of these different very small regional breweries, but at the same time I do wish I could get a hold of some more beers, and one of the big reasons for that is that if I do some French reviews, I'll get people commenting on it on the videos from France, and they'll tell me what ones to look out for. So that is one of the things. I do wish that the French beer was just a little bit easier to get a hold of, but as I said earlier, thanks to my friend Gauthier, who is in Nice, I will have some more French beers to review for you a little bit later on. So yeah, stay tuned on that one, like I say. But that's all I can tell you about Brasserie Popihn for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery Facebook. They don't have a website as of yet, and you can look at the Untappd page to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, this one, as I say, hopefully should be an interesting beer. Let's get on to the tasting then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. Apparently the artwork that these guys do, apparently all of it is like dream themed. I think that it is a sort of play on words of the Popihn name. As I say, my French is nowhere near as good as my Swedish and Japanese and German these days. I forgot a hell of a lot of the French that I learned at school. I would love to resurrect it, but I've got too many other commitments at the moment. But yeah, this one, the artwork, I have to say, is really nice. It is a little bit almost dream, yeah, astronomical in some ways as well. Like, reminds me of some of these Leonardo da Vinci blueprints and stuff. But yeah, as I say, this beer is simply called the Citra Cryo Double IPA, and or Double IPA Citra Cryo, I guess. Not sure which way around it should be, but yeah, it's really nicely presented, this one. This one apparently has wheat and oat in it, 8% Double IPA, single hop Citra, I guess. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. This incidentally is a 440ml can, and I think this will also be the first ever canned beer that I've had from France. So that's another kind of first for this one. Yeah. Let's get it out and into the glass then. I'm very curious about this. Yeah, there's still a wee bit in the bottom there, but I think this should be enough to take a look at the appearance and the aroma just now. But yeah, this one I think should be. I'm fingers crossed this is going to be an awesome beer. It's got a lovely, kind of very rich, deep, bright yellow colour. This one, if we shine the light through it, it does have a good level of haze to it. You can see the head on this one is about, it's just under a half finger. It is very, very frothy. That's just going to fade away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, and if I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see there is a good degree of haze to this one. But yeah, I guess that when we put the rest of the beer in a little bit later, it will get even hazier actually, but that one, it comes across really, really nicely actually. So yeah, this one I think should be very, very nice. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we go on. It certainly looks the part for a New England IPA, and I'm just excited for this. I am just excited to try this one now. Ooh, that's quite interesting actually. Yeah, the first thing that strikes me about this is it smells really kind of It strikes me as being very, very grassy and very leafy. It's very nice in that sense. So underneath that, you do get a good little bit of wheaty character coming out of it. It seems very well balanced in terms of the oats and the wheat. It doesn't really seem to be dominated by any one of the two. Yeah, it's got a nice little bit of a kind of. It does have a little bit of that kind of bitiness from the wheat. But on the other hand, you do get some of the nice creaminess from the oats as well. And the yeast in this one, I think, is giving it just a very, very, very slightly you get that. I think that's also contributing to the creaminess a little bit. You do get a wee tiny touch of a slightly farmhousey note out of it. These kind of woody, herbally, vegetally kind of notes. You do get a little bit of that out of this beer. But yeah, the more I smell this one, I think it does actually become a little bit more oaty leaning. But yeah, the wheat and the oats balance each other very, very nicely in this one. And it actually, I think the malt base gets a little bit sweeter in this beer the further that you go into it. There's a wee touch of a biscuity note to it as well, but that's very minimal. That's very minimal, I should say. The oaty notes out of this, they just keep building and building and building. This beer really does get creamier and creamier and creamier the more that you smell of it. But yeah, the malt base in this one comes across as very nice and very straight up, to be honest with you. I like that balance between the wheat and the kind of creamy oaty characters actually. So yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, there's a tiny little bit of earthiness to it. You've got some nice big floral aromatic notes coming out of it as well, a little touch spicy, and you've also got just a wee bit of a lighter kind of grassy thing coming out of this one too, which is really nice. I like that. I mean, it's the thing with Citra is Citra can have quite a bit of spice to it. It's a lovely hop on its own though. It's one of a couple of hops that can really do a single hop double IPA. I really like how that goes together. Yeah, I mean, it's really the fruitiness that comes out of this, it is typical of what you would expect of the Citra hop, but the green side of this beer really is quite floral, and the more that I smell of it, the more floral it becomes. It does have a leafy element to it as well, and you've got some of that nice kind of lighter grassy quality coming out of it too. So yeah, green side of the hops is very nice, but fruity wise, good bit of mango as you'd expect. There's a wee bit of a stronger passion fruity note coming out of this one. I mean, sometimes Citra can give you a good little bit of that stronger, more pungent kind of tropical fruit out of this one, which is really nice. You know, Citra can give you a whole host of different things: stronger passion fruit, stronger grapefruit, a little bit of juicy mango, and you know, you're getting that in abundance with this beer. There are a few kind of other things going on in this one too. There's a little bit of a kind of lemon limey character to it in my opinion, maybe a little bit of gooseberry as well. I think it's mainly, there is a wee bit of a kind of stronger citrusy note to this one too. I mean, I can tell from the aroma with this beer, it's not at its prime in terms of freshness and things like that, but it's still in good condition. It's still in a good, very drinkable condition. This one, I'd guess that it's maybe been in the can about 5-6 weeks, something like that, but it still is in pretty good condition. But yeah, it's got a lovely kind of fruity character to it, but I guess the fruits might have been a little bit brighter when the beer was just a little touch younger. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one. Very kind of straight shooting IPA in my mind in terms of the aroma, but when it's Citra Cryo, you want a well done malt base and things, and it should be done really quite nicely. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Citra Cryo double IPA from Brasserie Popihn in a little place called Vaumont to the southeast of Paris. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Oh yeah, that beer, that's a well done beer, 100%. I mean, I can see why this brewery is carrying such a solid reputation. You know, whenever I go to Kiosk, I keep an eye out for you know, things just from random countries, and you can, as I say, find some very, very interesting stuff. I'm glad that I've come across this one. Just on that first taste, this one's it's got a really nice and strong, powerful flavour to it, and I like that. When you've got a Citra double IPA, a single hop Citra one though, you need that. You do need the flavour to be quite powerful just to kind of carry the beer through. But this is solid. I mean, thumbs up to Brasserie Popihn with this one. I can just imagine what it would have been like when it's in its kind of prime after about 2 weeks in the can, because as it stands it's still really solid. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. Where to start with this one then? It comes across, the first impression I have of this beer, it's got a lovely kind of smoothness but also a level of slickness to it. And one of the things that you really notice after doing as many beers as I have, you start to notice kind of similar things in the mouthfeel of beers from a certain country. I mean, for example, in Slovenia they love their beers, the IPAs at least, to be big and oily. But I have noticed with French IPAs, they seem to have a certain kind of slickness to them. They really do, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's a New England or a West Coaster, they always have a little bit of slickness to them. And yeah, this one I think it kind of lives up to that as well. So it's got the kind of full flavour and everything you'd expect in the New England IPA, but it just strikes me as a little bit more slick than some of the other New England doubles that I would have had from the likes of, you know, Spike, Brewski and all these, and Stigbergets, all these other breweries here in Sweden, as well as the Danish ones just across the water. So yeah, this is solid. I mean, as I say, I'm happy, you know, very happy to have a French beer, and this one is a treat. To have one as good as this is a treat for sure. So yeah, lovely. Let's try and break down the flavour a bit more then. So straight away with this beer, you can feel that lovely smooth white bready quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. The back third of your palate, I think, really leans more towards the wheaty side of things. You can feel the white bready notes just thickening up a little bit, and you do get a little bit of the bitiness from the wheat coming out of this one. Yeah, it's really nice in that sense, just with the kind of, you know, the level of bitiness you get out of the wheat with this beer. It comes out more the further you go into the aftertaste, I think, but at the same time the oatiness really adds a degree of smoothness to it. You have got a bit of contrast between the back third of your tongue and the middle third of your tongue. When you go to the middle third, if you move towards the front half of that, that's when you really start to get the big creamier elements out of the oats in this one. But then you also get a nice little bit behind that, you do get a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality, a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. And yeah, the malt base in this one really is very straight shooting. There's not much more complexity to it than that, but it's really nicely balanced. At the same time, it's got a good bit of flavour to it, and it has the smoothness, and that is one of the things that gives it the slickness, but it's not the thickest of malt bases that I've come across from a double IPA. And I think definitely this one, that adds to the slickness that the beer has. So it's an interesting thing to think about, I have to say. And the thing I do like about it as well is that it does give you a bit of that kick to let you know, yes, this is a double IPA. Some double IPAs that you'll come across are some of them are ridiculously drinkable for the percentage that they are. I mean, for example, Dugges Brewery in Gothenburg, their double IPAs are stupidly drinkable. This one does have that little bit of booziness to it that just lets you know, yeah, this is a double IPA. And you've got a nice little bit, the more that I drink of this, the more I get on that, in the middle third of your tongue, the more that I get a bit of that oily kind of Werther's Original type flavour there in the middle of the palate, and that's the booziness coming out of the beer, which is great. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate there is a wee bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward from that, it gets a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic. It's got a little bit of a spicy character on the front corners of the tongue. As you move around the very front curve of the palate, it's definitely a little bit more kind of light and grassy actually, which is really nice. But yeah, behind the front curve of the palate, on that front third of the tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And yeah, I have to say this is really quite nice in that sense as well. It's got quite a strong kind of citrusy note to it, which I really like. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, It's kind of classic Citra. It's got everything. I mean, Citra on its own is a very complex hop, and you just get a nice, you get a bit of everything out of this. So at the back of that front third of the tongue, you get this kind of stronger passion fruity notes out of it. I don't think there's a full-on grapefruit with this one, but yeah, there's a bit of the stronger passion fruit. As you come further forward from that, you get a really lovely, juicy and actually quite bright mango flavour out of this one. There are a few other kind of tropical elements to the beer, like, you know, a little bit of the kind of pineapple, papayas and all of these kind of things, but you also get you do also get a nice little bit of the kind of citry, the kind of more zesty qualities of the Citra coming out as well. As you reach the front tip of the tongue, there's a good little bit of a lemon limey character to it. On the very front edge of the palate, it's got a little bit of a kind of grassy zestiness in there as well, which is nice. The lemony zest, I think, really sits there on the front edge of the tongue. If I was blind tasting this, I actually would probably think this beer has a little bit of Centennial in it as well, because the lemony zest is quite forthright in this one. It really does give you a little bit of that edge to it. But yeah, I mean, this is one of these beers where it doesn't do anything that you don't expect, but I think it's just really well crafted. And to be fair, with a number of breweries that are producing the New England IPAs these days, you can't really ask for much more than that. All you can ask is for them to do a really solid beer, and that's exactly what Brasserie Popihn have provided here. It's a solid, it's a really very solid New England double IPA, and you know, to get one, to pull off one with only Citra in it is pretty impressive. I mean, I've had some very good ones. Raw Power from Abeltoft Gore Brewery over in Denmark. That's another example that I would always refer to with this beer, with this kind of style of beer. That's probably my benchmark actually, and this one is easily, it's as good as that, I would say. So, you know, that's a beer I hold in very high regard, so take that statement as you will. But yeah, this is kind of proof, I guess, that Brasserie Popihn know what they're doing, and from what I gather, they do a lot of different styles as well. This is just the one that they had in Kiosk, so I'd be curious to try, you know, some stouts, and I think they've got a few Berliner Weisses and things like that as well. I'd love to try a few of the different beers that these guys are doing for sure. Be cool to try a few other beers from the Yon area as well, because as I say, there's about, I'm sure in the newspaper article I read, it said there was about 12 or so breweries just in that little area actually, which was pretty cool. But yeah, this is really nice, I have to say. It doesn't, as I say, nothing unexpected from this beer, but it does, you know, it really gives you everything you want from it, and you can't, you know, you just have to say well done to Brasserie Popihn for this. It's a really solidly crafted beer, this one. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, like I said, the thing that really stands out to me about this one is how slick it is. I'd say this is at the top end of mid-bodied. I don't think I'd quite describe this beer as full-bodied. It's at the kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth in this, as I say, quite slick. One of the more, it's the creaminess that really gives it the slickness here, but it does have a little bit of oiliness to it as well. I would say that this beer is probably around 40 IBUs, maybe even 50 at a push. It does have a little bit more bitterness to it, and that's fairly common when it comes to the New England doubles. They do have a bit more bitterness to them to kind of match the booziness. The malt base on this one is lovely and smooth. It's got a bit of thickness to it, and there is a slight degree of sweetness to the beer as well. But in terms of the kind of fruity side of the beer, it's got a bit of the stronger tropical fruit to it as well, some of the lighter, juicier tropical fruits, and also a nice little bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty edge to it too. So I really like how this beer goes together in that sense, and as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, well done to Brasserie Popihn for this one. I'm glad that I was able to review this beer for you on the channel. Hopefully this is the beer that really starts to, or this is the brewery that really start to push their way out, because it tends to be the case, like, you know, when one brewery gets out of a country, more and more start to follow, because they're the ones who build the connections with distributors and things like this. As I said, this is the first beer that I've come across from France outside of France, so hopefully these guys do what the likes of, you know, Pohjola did in Estonia, and Arpus are doing with Latvia and things just now. I'd love to see that these guys going to start to build the links for other breweries, other French breweries, to get their beers out there a little bit more. I do wish that we had more French beer, and that I could review more of it for you here on the channel. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, pardon me getting a little bit of gas out of this. But yeah, As I said, this is a really solidly brewed New England double IPA. Really cool to have this one for you here on the channel, and it will be interesting to keep an eye on this brewery and see how they progress over the next few years. But yeah, this is a lovely, beautifully done beer, and I guess we should leave the review there. But yeah, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brasserie Popihn as well. Do let me know some other French breweries that you guys would recommend I take a look at. As I say, my friend Gauthier is in Nice in the south of France. I probably will be reviewing some more South French beers soon, but it would be awesome to review more from other parts of the country as well. I don't know how many breweries there are in France these days, but my experiences with the French craft beers have always been very positive, so I wish that I could get more of them for you here on the channel. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Brasserie Popihn, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was the double IPA Citra Cryo from Brasserie Popihn in Vaumont in France, in a little region called Yonne, to the kind of southeast of Paris. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, salut, and we'll catch you guys later. Cheers.